Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF 44 coming at you with another video. So as naturally, when situations when you're waiting for a phone call, you stop something you're doing. In this case, it was a video I was doing where I was talking to you guys, addressing stuff that really mattered to me. Thought it was the call I was waiting for was actually someone talking about some car insurance bull crap, solicitors and stuff like that. So yeah, anytime you see verified as opposed to scam likely, you're like, oh, verified. No, just some idiot trying to sell me some car insurance. So anyway, not to be rude to that dude, but that irritated the hell out of me, man. I don't like sales calls at all. But nevertheless, it is what it is. I wanted to get back on here and just immediately picked up right where I left off. Just continue to speak on how I'm appreciative of the fact that I've had everybody, of course, check me out and the various things that I've been talking about, and just how I'm trying to learn to work with my mind rather than against it in certain situations. I was talking about how I believe childhood trauma may be the reason why I've had some of the struggles I've had, and the confusion about how I was reacted to growing up the way that I was, kind of being in isolation, and how, I was accused of, not necessarily accused, I don't know if that's the right word, but, labeled lazy, labeled someone who didn't want to do something. I always suggested that, why don't I just go? Why don't I just do? Why don't I? And it was like, it got to a point where when you're hearing that as a child and you don't know yourself and you're feeling what you're feeling, you then start beating yourself up because it's like, well, yeah, I am lazy. I'm not meeting their expectations. I'm not being a good son because I'm not able to do what it is I'm supposed to do. Everybody else is going to school comfortably, getting good grades, and I can't bring myself to even walk into the classroom on various days. I can't even get out of bed some days because I'm so anxious, so intent on being isolated for my own comfort, for my own psychological comfort. And it was like, as I'm starting to grow older, I'm realizing that I was responding to the real things that happened that other people didn't see me go through, that other people weren't present for. So when they see me and they see how I'm reacting to those things, or they saw how my little child mind was trying to cope with these feelings, they didn't understand that it wasn't laziness that was fueling that. That was not some type of shortcoming as it pertains to my logic, thinking that I could live this way and get the results that would be best for my life. A lot of times people would tell me, if you don't go to school, you're not going to work. If you don't go to work, you're not going to live. You're not going to have a family. My grandfather used to tell me stuff like that. What are you going to do when you have a woman in your life and you can't afford nothing? What are you going to do? Well, the answer was, I wasn't going to have any of that. Up until 37 years of age, I wasn't going to have any of that because I couldn't manage my own mind as it pertains to trying to react to childhood trauma that I never got help for. You know what I mean? And I've been in relationships and stuff like that, but as you can see, there's no wife here, there's no life here, because I've always felt most comfortable, most safe in isolation, based on what I'm starting to realize were specific instances of childhood trauma, real life, tangible things that actually happened to me that too early in life that made it so that my defensive parameters and the things that I'm allowing myself to do, that convincing yourself aspect of myself, just don't work properly. Never has. My mind instead shows me all different types of stuff that isn't real, that magnifies things as problems, that makes it seem like as if the worst of things are coming my way if I challenge myself to do these various things that really weren't much at all. And the older I get, the more I start to look into various things that, try to learn these things about myself. I'm starting to become aware, saying, yo, when I was dealing with certain things as a child, I didn't have no help. I didn't have nobody that had shared those experiences with me. There was nobody in my head to kind of convince me otherwise, or even what I'm able to do now, which would be able to explain to myself if I can go back in the past and say, okay, this is what happened to you, this is why you're feeling this way, and this is what you need to do. You know what I mean? There was none of that. So what I hope to do with this channel in these particular type of videos is try to formulate a way to do that from my perspective, try to help people through what it is that I dealt with, and so, yeah, I believe I got on here once and told everybody what happened in my situation. I believe I did. I think I made a video early on when I made the channel and confessed all of the trauma, but at the end of the day, it was that trauma that ultimately I struggle with to this very second. And it's unfortunate because a lot of that stuff happened before I was even old enough to really talk. I was 2 years old when things were going down. So it was like, Your brain develops as something that feels it needs to protect itself, but there's no real structure to that. There's no real logic to that. There's no real guidance in that. It's just, okay, I've perceived all of this bad stuff, so now as I saw it, I need to protect myself. And I couldn't explain that to people. They didn't know. I didn't even know how to explain it to myself. I wasn't conscious of it. It was a subconscious defensive mechanism, so to speak, that was built up in a head that's already artistic, that's already, creative. You see what I'm saying? It's not like I just have one of those heads. It's just, all right, it's just no, this head got all kinds of stuff in it. So as it perceived these troubles, it also perceived how to protect itself. And in doing so, that part developed before I did. And there was nobody around who even understood that. My mom didn't even know what the heck she was looking at in that regard. She knew I had been through some trauma, and she knew that I was probably reacting to that trauma, but how to go about helping me navigate through it, how to go about coaching me through the process of managing my own mind and still being productive in life. I had to bump my head 1,000,006 times. I had to go through processes of hating myself because of what people were telling me about myself that wasn't true. Things that they perceived because of what they were seeing in me without seeing what it is I was dealing with. So, yeah, man, now I just wish I could go back to who I was as a child and just raise myself, honestly, because I know what he needs. I know what I needed, I needed music. I needed to be somewhere where the stress of finding a way to make a living for myself was catered to the things that came naturally to me. That's what I needed. I need to be in musical settings. I need to be in artistic settings. I need to be in anything involving being creative, because then I can channel that energy, channel that frustration, channel that fear into something creative, and thus I could have made a whole lot of money for myself, in my humble opinion, now that I'm discovering those talents that I have. So just weren't cultivated properly. Wasn't cultivated properly, misdiagnosed by the people around me, more or less, and ultimately my confidence was deteriorating in that process. The pressure of my grandparents. Why aren't you doing math? Why don't you go to school? That kind of pressure was kicking my butt. I developed a complex and didn't want to talk to them at all. Honestly, it was just one of those situations where I would get angry at my mom for putting me on the phone with my grandparents because of the pressure that they applied on me that they thought was just, given the fact that they were scholars. They know what type of brain I have. They know what stock I come from because they are that way. They're very, very, very extremely intelligent individuals. My grandfather and his son, my uncle. So it's like I'm one of them, but I don't function like them. I got a lot of my mom and my dad in me too, and all that comes with that. So I think they were looking to me to just, hey, you're supposed to go to school, get straight A's, be a scholar, be ahead of the game, because that's what Delonies do. My genius didn't come out in that way. That's not how my smarts work. I'm not a book guy. I'm not. And it's not that I wasn't excelling in books. That's the thing. It's not that I didn't have the brain for it. It's that in my development stages, I was too busy protecting myself from things that otherwise felt stressful. So as a result, stress came my way, I'm pushing it away. But the thing about it was, I had some of those strengths that they had. In kindergarten, I excelled in math. I was able to read full sentences before I was able to actually walk, believe it or not. I know that's like crazy, but my mom taught me how to read, and I took the words fast and very easily, and words come to me very easily. So I've been able to communicate and perceive longer than I've been able to walk. And when trauma comes to a brain like that, it becomes impossible to manage. Just impossible to manage. So as I've grown older, my moves and the things that I've done, I've lacked context in certain situations. I've lacked the beginning structure of certain paths. So yeah, I'm going to appear stupid because I'm lacking some things that come with growing up being structured in a school setting, getting the basic stuff, But as it pertains to other things, no, I got some natural things that are about myself that are very, very intelligent. And, I just was misdiagnosed or mistreated, or not mistreated. How do you say that? Just given the wrong stuff as a kid, just all the wrong stuff. All the wrong stuff. Is my mom, she loved me to death, but she just poured love into me in the form of things that didn't require a whole lot of me in regards to meeting expectations. Now, obviously, and most definitely, that was her in reaction to the way that I was as a son. But, she saw how I was struggling. She saw how that was, and she was just like, I need to make him happy. Plus, she had gone through a lot of her own trauma, so she had a thing about wanting to give me what she didn't have, like a lot of parents do. So it was a lot of that going on, to where she would just heap me full of gifts. Christmas time's coming around, I had the best Christmases of any human being that I knew, because my mom would spend all the money she could, overcompensating more or less for the trauma that she felt was her fault, that I was left vulnerable to receive at 2 years of age. So it was like she blamed herself for that, and just continued to pour on love in that way. But it wasn't what was best for me. I needed other things, I think. So as a result, I'd sit in the front of the TVs, play video games for 7 hours, hiding my soul in them games, so that I didn't have to face the traumas of my past. You know, hiding my soul in those games as a means of keeping myself from facing the pressures of school, you know? And so I had, like, my Super Nintendo, I had over 150 games. She was spending $50 a piece on each one of those games. That's why we were always broke, because we weren't investing money. She was pouring all her money into stuff that I wanted, and the stuff I wanted was always priced all the way up to the moon. So, you know, the sacrifices my mom had to make just to keep my spoiled self happy was ridiculous. But she was happy to do it. And I do thank her for her attempt at it, and for always coming through. But I just look back on it, I was like, man, that's not what I needed. Those were things that were making me more sick, you know, making me more unhappy about who I was, because I would sit down and gain weight, eat big tubs of red vines and stuff like that. She would also do the same with food. That's why I'm so crazy about the way I eat now, is because I started off so poorly, eating just ridiculous amounts of candy, sugar, fast foods. We would go to Taco Bell. I swear to you guys, I would order 5 hard tacos each and every time, and sometimes we would go like once a week. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, that is why I'm so monotonous of an eater now. I eat fish, I eat oatmeal, I eat all kinds of, no red meat, no pork. You ain't never gonna see any of that stuff in this house. No soda, none of that. I'm ridiculously healthy in regards to my eatings, because I've tasted everything already. I went through years and years. I had a whole lifetime of fast food. I don't ever need another fast food, candy, none of that. I had it all. All of it. Anything I ever wanted to taste, I tasted before I was 21 years of age. So it's like, now that I'm older, I just want to be healthy. You know what I mean? I want to look in the mirror and like what I see. And that's somewhat of a yet another overcompensation for all of what we've been talking about. So yeah, man. Yeah, it's just, now that I'm starting to learn myself after 37 long years, I feel like I'm finally blooming to understand who I am and what it is that I need. And now it's like, okay, well, how do you put into practice things that already have long been out of my system? Like, for example, how do I go back to school? Like, I've had a complex about going to school and what it entails for many years. I started hating school probably around 2nd grade, y'all. Honestly, like 2nd grade. It was a situation, and I told you guys I excelled in math, but you know, going to the school that I went to in Hollywood, it was one of those situations where she put me in a kindergarten spot in one place, did a whole year of kindergarten. When I got to the elementary school, they made me do kindergarten again. So already I'm dejected by that. Mind you, I'm coming out of trauma, so I'm like, now when I'm finally somewhere I'm good, I'm excelling, I'm doing something I love to do, and I'm you know, basically ahead of the class, and now they're gonna try to make me do this over again. Fine. So I did it. But then when they got me to kindergarten, they realized I was above the kids. So what they ended up doing was putting me in the 1st grade math book in kindergarten. I blew past that. That shit was easy to me, excuse my language, but it was easy. My mom had already taught me all of that. So that was boring, more or less, for a long 6-year-old, 5-year-old. I was not interested in any of this. I was excelling in it and all that. At that point, they started testing me to see if I was gifted. And they certified me gifted for intellectual thinking. I don't remember how they tested that. They put me in front of a screen or something, ran some stupid crap, had me playing Oregon Trails, and deemed I was a super mind or something. I don't know, man. Whatever. But anyway, certified gifted in intellectual thinking. And from there, I surmise somebody saw that skin color, hated that. I truly believe this, and made it a point to make me do the 1st grade math book over again in 1st grade. Instead of sending me into the 2nd grade math book, they made me do the same damn book the 2nd year over and over again. The 2nd year again. At that very moment, now mind you, I'm only 6, 7 years old. At that very moment, I lost faith in the school system. See, I was already smart. So at that point, I realized I was being discriminated against. I did. And I rebelled against it. I shut down. Every time they decided to do math, I put my head down and went to sleep. I was protesting. 6, 7 years old. That's how my mind worked. I was like, I'm not going to have them hype me up and tell me I'm some type of special mind who can do things that the rest of these kids can't do. All the kids in the class come to me and ask me how to do the homework. And then the very next year, when it's time for me to learn something new, they have me do the same thing over again. I was hot. And most importantly, I gave up on it. I gave up on school right then and there. Anything after that was social. And once I started to look a certain way, started to develop man boobs and start to develop this big old gut, people started making fun of me. I perceived that worse than it was. Took back all that teasing and stuff in such a sensitive way. I just gave up on school. Around 3rd, 4th grade, I had some real friends that I started to meet, so I enjoyed 4th grade, all that. We was like a superstar classroom full of my homies. But when 5th grade came around, graduated cool. Once I got to 6th grade, my interest in school was gone. I got to 6th grade, had some issues, got to junior high school, and I was pretty much done. That's when I started the process of telling my mother that my stomach was hurting each and every morning so that I didn't have to go there. And then when I went to high school, had the same problem. We switched me out to North Hollywood High School, had the same problem. Even though my best friend was in North Hollywood, so I would go out there. That's when I discovered smoking weed, stuff like that, around the same time. We were going to Oakland. I was smoking weed out there too. So my brain started to respond negatively to some bad highs that I had around the same time too. I had a very bad trip. I think I got some angel dust or something like that. Hit me when I was like 15, smoking with my cousin in Oakland. That's when I started having more issues as well. After that little trip, I don't think I was ever right after that as it pertained to school. Then I started really jumping into, I don't want to go to school. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to sit in the house for long periods of time, right? From there, I just got older. Obviously, school was what it was. It started to pass me by. The years went by. Finally went back and got my GED, but otherwise, I stayed away from school. College, I didn't want to go to college. I had the same complex about school as a grown man as I did as a child. I don't want to be there. It's a source of stress. It's a source of applied pressure. It's topics I don't give a damn about. That was another thing. Lies in regards to history, exalting things that didn't exalt myself or make me feel any better about myself. And all they're telling me is that I was a slave and that was it. Like, I didn't want to hear any of that. I didn't care about that. In mathematics, I didn't care about math. And the thing about math was, a lot of times the teachers that were teaching me math, in certain instances, they weren't able to make it so that I understood it. One of my algebra teacher, they gave me this woman 2 years in a row, and I never understood a word she was saying. Her accent was so thick that I couldn't understand her. To this day, I don't know what half the time she was trying to tell me. And so it was just those type of things that just made it a relationship between me and school that was just never positive. I always looked at school as my op. Like, anytime I got to go to that place, I'm walking into enemy territory. Anytime I got to walk into that place, it's probably something that's going to be to my peril. Like, that's how I looked at school. I got to stay away from that place. You know what I mean? It's like walking to fire for me. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's how I perceived education. Homework, I can't do homework. It's stressful. I start getting headaches when I start doing homework. Never did it. And a lot of times, I gotta say this, gotta tell the truth. A lot of times those assignments were so complicated that my mom and myself both couldn't figure it out. They give us Xerox sheets that didn't actually print out properly. You couldn't even halfway see what was on the page. It would be worded in such a way that didn't even make any sense, misspelling and stuff like that. I wasn't being taught properly. So a lot of times we would get so frustrated that my mom would do the homework. We would be up 2 a.m. trying to figure something out. I would go to sleep, she would do it. So even though I appreciated her doing that, because ultimately she was in them rooms with us, we were trying, but I just didn't have the mentality to continue to look into what it was that we were doing. I would give up. I would shut down mentally. I couldn't do it, and so all of that became more of a crutch for me when she started doing the homework herself. It was like, all right, that doesn't help him, but she was doing the best she could, man. It just was what it was. Thing don't come with a manual. So all in all, man, I can just honestly say I had a loving household. My mother gave me affection. She gave me wisdom. She speaks into me the same type of stuff I'm speaking into y'all. Prayer, all of that stuff. It's why I'm alive today. However, we got off to a bad start in regards to my education. We got off to a bad start in regards to my esteem, how I viewed myself based on the man tits and stuff like that. and the complex that I developed at high school about that. It was crazy. I think most of the school thought I was trying to develop a style, but what I was actually doing was I would wear towels around my chest every day, around my neck, matching whatever I was wearing. If it was a Lakers shirt, I had a purple towel. If it was a green shirt, I had a green towel. And it looked like I was trying to style, but what I was actually doing was covering up the man boobs so that nobody could see them, because I had been teased repeatedly over and over again, even by teachers in some cases. I remember one teacher called me Miss Fulmer when we were getting ready to get in the pool. Like, that stuff messed with me, man. I was so sensitive. I didn't have no fight for that. So it was like, I would take all that in, never cry about it, but it would seep in my spirit even worse than a cry, because I would never leave the house. It's like, okay, they're gonna see me as this. So I lay down, no push-ups to help the chest, just more red vines, more bad food, more video games to make me even bigger, to make me even less happy with myself, to make me even less athletic. It was just a bad start, man. It's a really bad start to my life as it pertains to, all of that was going on there. It was just, I didn't get what I needed. And so now that I'm a grown man, I struggle with these same habits of that child, because I'm the same person on the same path. You feel me? It's like, now it's like, okay, I know all of this now. I can see all of it clearly. I look in the mirror, I don't see none of that. I don't even feel the way I did, but the habits of the person, the lack of the education, the lack of the habits and things of that nature still work against me. So, that's where we're at. That's literally where we're at. At least my awareness has allowed me to understand all of this and to be able to verbalize it. You know what I mean? I remember it was a situation where I think it was in maybe like 2008, 2009. I was working at the ESPN Zone, and one of the bosses that worked there, I don't think he knew I overheard him, but he called me slow. And he's like, Brandon, yeah, the slow one, right? He's a little slow, right? And it dawned on me, like, yeah, to those who are in the structure that I was not in, I look slow, because I'm lacking certain things that you have naturally, because you were raised in a system of structure in school, structure in certain things. So they've given you certain context. I didn't have any of that. Problem is, I'm so far from slow, because now I'm starting to realize the strengths that I have would have allowed me to excel tremendously in some of those areas that people grew up in. If I would have had a good start to education, I'd be a straight A student. If I would have had a good start to my health and all of that, I might have been a professional athlete. You know what I mean? Like, that's how my brain tends to operate when I fall in love with something and dedicate myself to it. I get really good at it. But because I don't allow myself at times the structure to stick to something, I never actually do. So it was a lot of that growing up. But I'm like, nah, I grown up and see my strengths. It's like, yo, if I would have been a basketball player, I would have been a great assist guy. Like, I think the game in ways of making other people better. It's just my body was trash. So I never grew up to be an athlete or a physical specimen in any way. But now that I've grown older, some of the things that I know my body can do now, it's like if I would have been in shape when I was 20-something, I would have been athletic. I would have been fast. I would have had good coordination. There was a lot of things that I start to realize that I just never got off to the right start. Just weren't given the tools to ever find that potential. So now that I've grown older, it's like, all right, how do I take all of that, get out of this position, and then use all of that to assure that I can help others who may find themselves in the same situation. And what I also know is that I haven't met too many people who've had the path I've had, but I'm sure they're out there somewhere. I'm sure there are people out there who are probably some children right now who are going through some traumatic stuff that's going to set them on the path that I was on. You know what I mean? So I'd like to help people in whatever way I can with the experiences I have and the gift that I have to not give a damn about who knows what about me. That's a gift. I kid you not. Because I don't care if y'all know how broke I am. I don't care if you know how much issues tend to occur from my mental health. Or how many issues. I don't care that any of that, because I tell you this: if I gain success, I'm gonna stand on that too, just like I stand on the failure, just like I stand on the bad stuff. You know what I mean? This is all one life, and when we find ourselves insecure about our experiences or insecure about what it is we've been through, to the point where we don't want to share, you can't help nobody. Your experiences are all your own. You're gonna take them to the grave, and they never did nothing for nobody. All they did was hurt you. I'm not gonna let my experiences only function be to have hurt me. these experiences, this life, I'm gonna leave it here for you to see. The struggles, the good and the bad. And wherever it goes, it's gonna be just like that. And it's not about gaining attention, it's about helping. It's literally about helping. You know, if something good happens for me in that process, cool. But if it doesn't, you're gonna learn from that too. You feel me? So that's how I'm looking at it. And as I've always said, man, you see how I said I stood on something as a kid, you know. Even when I was 6 years old, when I thought I was discriminated against, I protested. I'm gonna do the same going forward. I'm not gonna change in that way. When I stand on something, I stand on something. I've been wrong many times, sometimes some ways I'm not happy about. I look back on things and say, man, I had that so wrong and I was so loud. But at the same time, just like I'm open in regards to that, I'm also open in regards to being wrong. And when I'm wrong, I'm very happy to tell y'all I messed that up. When I misspeak, sometimes it's like, yo, I misspoke. I think that authenticity will help you understand where my heart is at all times. So that when I misspeak, when I say something offensive, you'll know, hey, you know what? Stall him out. That's not really what he's about. That's what I ultimately want. Because when people fake it, people pretend they're something they're not, when those situations occur, people are disappointed by you because they expected more out of you. I want you to expect this from me, authenticity and correction of self. That's what I want you to expect. And then whatever happens from there, you know, just charge it to him because that's his brain. That's what it's about, man. My name is BDF 44. I thank you guys for watching this. I'm gonna cut it because it's long, but I do want to get all that out. So thank you, BDF 44.